This is episode 275 of Jumble Think.
T minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to Jumble Think, where we interview dreamers, makers, innovators, and influencers about their journey of turning dreams and ideas into reality. Along the way, we're going to share some tips on how you can turn your own dreams and ideas into reality too. Our guest on today's show is Blaise Pepitone. Whether you're a new listener or a longtime fan, if you haven't subscribed to Jumble Think already, it's super easy to do. Head on over to your favorite place to listen to podcasts, search for Jumble Think, and click subscribe. While you're there, leave us a rating and review, and let others know what you think of our show too. Now let's jump into today's show. Hey there, welcome to Jumble Think. My name's Michael Woodward. I am your host. We have a great show lined up for you today. Before we get rolling, we want to thank our friends over at Penji. Penji is your source for unlimited graphic design at a low monthly subscription. And as a listener of Jumble Think, all you have to do is use the code JUMBLE when you visit Penji, PENJI.co. Our guest on today's show is Blaise Pepitone. Blaise is an Amerex Energy Services energy consultant, joining them in 2018. He has a passion for deregulation of the energy industry. Blaise is responsible for engaging with clients for consulting services, including energy procurement, energy management, and most importantly, management of his client relationships. Prior to joining Amerex, Blaise had extensive experience in account management and business development. Blaise managed over 100 employees, grew on-site location revenue by 85% for 3 years, and achieved many sales awards, including top 10 area manager in the country. Born in New Jersey, Blaise graduated from Arcadia University with a degree in accounting. When Blaise is outside the office, he enjoys spending time with his family, fishing, playing basketball, reading, playing music, and watching his children grow up. Let's join our conversation with today's guest, Blaise Pepitone. We are with Blaise Pepitone, and we're sitting on the beautiful porch at the mansion at Allenberry Resort in Boiling Springs, Pennsylvania. Blaise, thanks so much for being on.
Yeah, thanks, Mike, man. This is awesome.
I'm excited to have you on. We've gotten to know each other a little bit over the last several months because one of these days we're going to have an idea camp here. And it was great to get to know you through that process because you're the guy I've talked to through it.
Absolutely.
I want us to step back and kind of look at your story of how you became an entrepreneur, because everyone's story is different. There's sometimes common threads, but we've got to hear your story. How did you get into this place of entrepreneurship?
So it's interesting. My definition of entrepreneur is different from others.
Okay, so define it for us.
What's the stew that's like a gumbo, right, in the South?
Yeah.
So it's got a mix of corporate.
Okay.
It's got a mix of like big dream, I'll take over the world, Pinky in the Brain kind of stuff. And then there's a mix of, realizing that I can work for someone and still achieve massive amounts of goals. Yeah. But I can still have original ideas. Yeah. So it's like, that's a big, like I said, it's gumbo, but...
Well, and there is this movement within corporations called intrapreneurs, which is entrepreneurs inside of corporations.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
You work for an energy company.
So it's a consulting firm, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You help people get the best rates for their energy. Well, corporations.
Correct. So that is a sliver of the pie. But ultimately, what really is... we are a consulting firm. It's one of the largest wholesale energy brokerage companies or brokerage houses of wholesale energy in the country. So we do a number of things, but I, for a living, shop electricity and natural gas, and it's fun. It's interesting, and not too many people understand it.
Yeah,
so.
Super cool. On your way into cryptocurrencies, blockchain technologies.
Yeah, so fast forward till June of this year. So I'm one of the vice presidents at Amerex, and so part of my title is special projects, right? So the special project, we always wanted to enter into some new spaces.
Yeah.
We're owned by Cantor Fitzgerald in New York, and so very traditional, and we're proud to say that. And so we want to really, we're now looking at things outside of the box. And so 2 spaces that we were looking at, one being the medical marijuana industry.
Okay.
And 2 being the crypto space.
Okay.
Just not super passionate about the medical marijuana. And I always was a tech guy. My dad was a tech guy. He's an auto engineer. We had many conversations about that. And so because of my fascination with computers, it was clear to me that my calling, if you will, was towards the crypto space.
Yeah.
So
they got into that, and then
data centers. Well, data center / crypto space. Yeah.
Yeah. So talk to us a little bit about what's drawn you to business, because there are those people who have careers and they can't really quantify it, but it seems like you have a real passion for this. It's not just, hey, I'm going to make a bunch of money. It's like there's passion-filled purpose behind what you're doing.
Yeah, and there's some extremely large ideas that encompass, really big problems like poverty, things like that I have ideas about and actual business plans that could support it. But, my attraction to business really was... I was always a numbers guy. I had an accounting degree. I have an accounting degree currently, and I don't use it. But I will say that my love for numbers came from that process.
Okay.
Almost subliminally. It was really something that I couldn't kind of identify at the time and identified way too late.
Yeah.
But it was a great process, and now, I'm dealing with numbers every day, when most people are sleeping. And it's just a really cool transition in my business career, and that's what really attracted me. So through the numbers came, call it, numbers-related industries that just kind of fell into my lap, after my college, when I graduated. And so from there, it just was a stem of things that led to where I sit today, which is just a really cool place that involves some of the most intricate forms of, technology, as well as energy, as well as a number of other industries, and then also lands me in really cool places like this too, which is nice.
Yeah, I want to figure out. From you, how you take these different facets of what you're doing and create a lifestyle around it.
Yeah.
Because, like you mentioned before, you're working in the energy sector, helping corporations buy their energy or consult in that to help them get the best rates. You're also working in the space of hospitality here at Allenbury. You working in the crypto space. And yet it's this stew. You mentioned gumbo. Yeah, and of stuff that creates the whole life. So talk to us a little bit about creating that lifestyle, because you also bounce that with your family time. You bounce it with the other things that you're involved with. Yeah. And so it's not like hey, I can be always on, always available 24/7 for these things, because you have to build the space and time.
My wife would say differently, but... Yeah, so when it's interesting you refer to it as lifestyle.
Okay.
I would almost refer to it as somewhat of an ecosystem.
Okay, what?
And so...
Why would you define that way?
So, think about an ecosystem. Each part of the ecosystem has to function optimally in order to thrive.
Yeah.
Right? And so... I adopted that, lifestyle is a product of a sound ecosystem, in my opinion.
Okay.
Right? And so from that, you can, if you have a healthy ecosystem around you, you can develop an optimal way to live. And so when you apply that into the business realm, right, you can have different functions of your entrepreneurial way, or I don't know, path, think of some hippie word to use, right?
Yeah.
It's like completely zenned out, over that thought of just having this opportunity with my business, each part of the businesses that I want to be passionate or have just a natural born passion over somehow fit into this weird puzzle of what you've kind of, as we've grew as friends, we grew to understand as, this really unique way of meshing industries together. And that's kind of a really cool and innovative way that my brain is kind of wired.
Yeah.
I always, even from a pure financial aspect, like I always had to manage different types of what we used to call profit centers. And so if those profit centers, think of like Sim City, this city is thriving well. It's got their economics are sound, their economy is thriving. They have businesses, they have food, whatever, right? Pick something. If it's managed poorly, it could suffer, right? And if it's not managed properly. And so I've always had to do that. And that always fascinated me. And it always made me want to bring optimization to this type of ecosystem mindset.
So with an ecosystem, things are a cohesion of togetherness. In that one thing impacts the other.
That was very like Zen of you to say that. That was crazy. It just rolled off your tongue.
Yeah. So you look at it and you go, what is the cohesion point between what you're doing? And it seems like you talked
like the
energy,
nucleus, right?
Yeah.
Like what is the nucleus?
Yeah. Like you have energy, you have tech, you have blockchain, you have hospitality here, and yet it seems like it comes back to a centralized hub of technology data.
It's a combination. I would say it's a combination of tech and energy.
Okay.
Right, because when you think about today, right? Like our parents, right? Could not make a living on their cell phone.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, they didn't have cell phones.
They didn't have cell phones,
and most of them still don't know how to use a cell phone.
Bingo. So even you couldn't have said it better myself. Anyway, so I think the nucleus of, I'm talking pure business now, right?
Yeah.
I mean, because there's two sets of molecular structures, right?
Okay.
So you have the work one, right? And this could be argued whether they all mesh together at some point.
Yeah.
Because you know what I'm about to say, right? I mean, you have the work one and then you have the home one, right?
Yeah.
And so,
which I am not of the opinion, and I've talked about this a lot in the show, is that we were taught as kids that we segment our lives.
Sure.
I'm gonna, and the way we'd always be told, I'm putting my business cap on. Now I'm gonna put my dad cap on. Now I'm gonna go put my coach hat on and that kind of thing. And I just don't think, maybe it's a changing of society. Maybe it's a changing of our understanding. Maybe it's just that we're plain stupid. I don't know. But somewhere in that mix, we found that there has to be a wholeness of that. You can't like if your family life is bad, that's going to impact your business life. Your business life is going bad, then there's a synergy and an exchange there between the two.
Agreed. And what you're even referring to is almost a negative exchange, right? Because when it's bad, it definitely affects it.
Yeah.
But when it's good, does it affect it? And my wife would tell you, right? If she was sitting right here, she would say, yes. I mean, when you're being successful in what you do, you're just a better person to be around.
Yeah.
And so that kind of sucks, right? I mean, I don't, I don't like that. I don't want it to be like that, but it's really hard. And we've always had these kind of conversations of like, man versus woman, right? And like the nurturing of the female versus the protective side of the male. And so for me, when I think of like all of the hats that I wear all of the time, it's fun and challenging for me to keep this ecosystem healthy enough for me to then give everything else that I have to my family and my kids.
Yeah.
So like, yes, I do say it's meshed, but I feel like there's when you're referring to business as what is the nucleus, back to that. It's a lot of combination. It's really three things ultimately, and one I think you and I can agree on is God.
Yeah.
Okay, number one.
Yeah.
He's just up on a shelf by himself, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and then you have, for me, it would be well, really 4. If you're really going through, if we're going down the ladder here, or
Yeah.
whatever you want to call that, I
Yeah.
mean, ladder's really a bad term, but it's God family.
Uh-huh.
They're on their own. They're not on their own, but
They're
in their
doing their
own
own
way,
thing.
they're very special. But then tie it into the work, right? So I guess we are infusing those now. For me, it would be energy and it would be tech.
Yeah.
And so and see, like, hospitality would be a product of that, because you think about it, Mike, like, if there's no electricity, we have no podcast today.
Right.
And so, but also too, if you and I don't have Wi-Fi, we can't connect and broadcast this.
Right.
So you think about those foundational truths. It's like, wow, yeah, that's
Yeah.
pretty almost in this. You need these things,
So I think I derailed the conversation a few minutes ago by we were talking about, you were sharing about how in generations past, the cell phone and not being able to work
Right.
from a cell phone. So I want to circle back
Yeah.
to that and kind of bring that back full circle.
Sure. So, when you think about our parents, like I was saying, I'm glad you brought us down this path again, because this is interesting. Again, they couldn't make money off their phones.
Right.
There's no MacBook Pro, there's no 5G,
Yeah.
4G, whatever, right? There's none of that, and they could not communicate sophisticated. Right? There was no sophisticated communication, say that 3 times fast, right? And because of that, it was harder for them to earn the dollar, right? And when I say that, like, my dad, just retired, right? Every day's a Saturday for him.
Mm-hmm.
He's every day's a Saturday, man. It's great. And so, but he worked in a refinery.
Yeah.
Me, he looks at me and he thinks I'm in the mob, because he's like, I still don't even know what you do. And I'm like, I've told you this. And it's just that and he's a technical guy, and we've had these conversations. He will build a speaker for you. He will build a computer for you.
Yeah.
But yet he can't, understand that I look at a computer from 5 to 7 in the morning,
Yeah.
and that determines what kind of money I'll make for the month,
Yeah.
and so it's like he gets it, but he doesn't, and it's interesting.
Yeah.
And that's just the new age. It's only going to get worse, tech wise,
Yeah.
as far as the ability to make money and how easy it's already easy.
Yeah. I think for me, the thing that we've talked about this. I'm super involved in tech.
Of course,
Do a lot in the web space. Work with a lot of startups in Silicon Valley, and yet I wonder sometimes if our connectivity and the accessibility to connectivity, while we have a global reach now, we seem to have a loss of the tangible touch of each other and being able to connect at that level.
Yep.
So before we write off a generation before us, because I think there's a lot that they can bring to the table.
Of course.
It's like, what can we learn from the ways they did business, or the ways that they had to navigate that because of the face-to-face, that we should actually be longing to bring back?
So now you're getting into the old school business, which I love.
Yeah.
I mean, so man, it's like this whole warmth that just came over so for our listeners, it's probably about what, like 62 degrees right now? 63?
Like that.
It's like,
It's a nice fall day.
I mean, you need a jacket.
Yeah.
Right? This whole warmth just came over my body when Mike just is talking about the handshake deals, the where back in the day you actually could shake somebody's hand and it actually meant something.
Yeah.
Houses were bought, cars were bought on a handshake.
Yeah.
Right? I heard stories about, places in upstate Pennsylvania where if they didn't have money to buy food, there would be a credit at the grocery store.
Yeah.
Like the families had credit.
Yeah.
Okay, the Pepitones, they the factory didn't pay this week or something. They couldn't make payroll, so we'll put $100 on Pepitone's grocery bill.
Yeah.
And so, and there was no credit cards.
No.
That was the credit card, just
Yeah.
a piece of paper.
Yeah.
And so when you think about these kinds of things, and I am a sucker for, doing business on the golf course, right?
Yeah.
Doing business, just you and me getting together for lunch, talking face to face. I mean, look at us now. We're sitting, on the porch of a mansion in the Boiling Springs with microphones in front of us, right? We're talking, and we're trying to reach thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people, if not millions on this podcast.
Yeah.
And so because of that, it's unique. If you were to say, hey, Blaise, let's do a podcast over the phone, like, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
But
And we do a lot of those. Earlier this week, I was sharing on an episode the fact that one of the things we're moving towards is splitting our podcast into two different shows, getting back to the dreamer, maker, innovators, and influencers, and getting back to that story, and then having a second podcast that's focused on entrepreneurship. And, we've been doing this show for 3 years now.
Congrats. That's awesome.
This will be 275. Yeah, this will be episode 275 that we're talking on right now.
That's a pretty cool number.
Yeah, it's a good number. The more I do in-person interviews, whether it's through Podcast Row, which is an event we're a part of, or some of our bigger interviews when we do those in person, the more I'm like, there's something special about the connection and conversation that happens there that doesn't happen on the virtual meetings through Skype or through...
Sure.
And so, that's the direction we're going, is doing as many interviews as we can in person.
All of the ways we communicate are all fantastic, I feel, nowadays. I mean, I have clients that are teaching me how to speak Mandarin on WeChat.
Yeah.
I connect with so many people from all over the world because of what I do. It's so easy, it's so easy to do that. And it fascinates me. And when I look at like how innovative somebody really can become, like you look at these countries like China and parts of Asia and things that are just so innovative. They've been talking the innovators in energy as well as tech, of course. And so it's just fascinating to look at that and just have an overall general respect for that. I think is just important today. I think too many. America has too much competition. And there's stuff where like. It's not that I say I'm not a competitor, because I am.
Yeah.
But you need to know, people need to understand how to operate ethically and morally within their own competition, right? Everybody's got to needs to eat, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and there's plenty of ways to do that.
Yeah.
So I've been that's one of the main thoughts I've been thinking about, recently, as like, especially when we're looking to like acquire people, and like acquire businesses.
Yeah.
It's just like, is that the right move for them? Like, people don't think that way. It's like, I mean, it'll boost our EBITDA by 15%, but
yeah. Well, a good example of that is Facebook when they bought out Oculus.
That's right.
And Oculus was like, nothing's gonna change. They said we have our autonomy. We're all good. They like the idea.
It's Silicon Valley, ladies and gentlemen.
when you sell your company, you sell your company.
That's right.
It doesn't matter what they tell you. You don't own it anymore. You don't get to make those choices. I mean, the founders of Instagram just left Facebook because they're like, this is not what we want to do. This is not what we want to become. And we have to know that when we are looking at exit strategies, what we're going to gain and lose from the decisions we make.
Yeah, and there's, that's. I was just having this conversation with somebody about acquisitions. I mean, you look at all these like M&A firms that are out now.
Yeah,
there's like thousands of them.
Yeah,
and where does it all come from? It comes from, a lot of them come from tech.
Yeah,
I mean, these guys, like I look at in the crypto space, in the data center space, like, I mean, these guys that are having these high-powered computers. I mean, it's just somebody who just sold a their website company, or I don't know. Just pick a industry within tech.
Yeah,
some type of they sold motherboard. I don't know, whatever the motherboards or chips or something. And but it just happens. You're seeing that so much now, and it's so it's almost just like, oh, you bought and sold your company? Great. I mean, just add it to the pile of people that I met, 5 minutes ago. So it's interesting.
Well, we're going to take a break right here, and when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about business. We're going to do rapid-fire questions. There's a lot more to this conversation. We'll be right back. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Penji. Penji helps startups, agencies, small businesses, big corporations, marketing teams, and more achieve more with unlimited graphic design support at one flat monthly rate. Their easy-to-use online platform pairs you with a professional designer and lets you create as many design projects as you want. Think of it as your monthly subscription to top-notch design. With no contracts, no hourly billing, just fast, simple, and affordable graphic design for all of your needs. As a listener of Jumblethink, they're doing something really, really cool. They're going to give you 15% off your first month. Head on over, Penji, PENJI.co, and use the code JUMBLE to get that 15% off. Here's the deal. We've been using them for a while for some of our own graphics here at Jumblethink. We love them. I think you're going to be really happy with them too. So go check them out. Penji.co. Now let's jump back into our conversation with today's guest, Blaise Pepitone. We are back with Blaise. All right, before we get going, significant question that people have to know. How can they find and connect with you?
Twitter.
Okay. Where at?
So it's a long one. It's at the Energy Guru 7.
And we'll put that in the episode notes. So if you're listening, wherever you're listening, it's going to be easy to find.
Thank you.
We typically end our first episode, first segment with the following 3 questions, and we're going to put them here. The first question is, how do you find purpose in what you do?
When you don't know you're doing it.
Okay. Like for you, how are you finding purpose in what you do?
When I am able to create jobs for some opportunity that came to me because someone trusted me, that's purposeful. You know, the folks that recognize expertise and reward expertise with a sound business relationship. That's what makes me get up and do what I do professionally.
What's one challenge you're currently working to overcome in your own businesses?
I embrace challenge. It's cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I like challenge. One in particular that's rather challenging is managing travel and family. I've been traveling the most I ever have in my life, flying.
Okay.
I've flown more times this year than I have ever in my entire life.
Wow.
And professional career. And I miss my kids.
Yeah. You have a new one.
I do.
One.
Olive.
Yeah.
She'll be 5 months.
Wow. Feels
October
like just
2nd.
like a week ago.
I know. I know. And so you don't really realize it until you're on the plane, and it's like, it's not like I can jump in a car and drive back from Texas. I could.
Yeah. Take longer than the flight.
It's not going to take me an hour or two,
Yeah.
you know? And so, you know, when I was in Houston, just a little sub story, I was in Houston 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago with the tropical depression there. I mean, people were dying.
Yeah.
And it was just, my flight was delayed a day and a half.
Wow.
They shut down both airports in Houston.
Yeah. Hobby and
Bush.
Bush, yeah.
Both shut down.
I lived in Houston for a while.
You told me this?
I think so. I don't remember.
Wow. I love Houston.
Yeah.
Go Rockets. But shameless plug. Anyway, that was just knowing that that's the biggest challenge right now, like being down there and knowing that I couldn't just get home right away was a problem.
Yeah.
So just learning how to deal with that and knowing that really trying to make a conscious effort to travel as much as I can and create as much as I can now and then manage, create first, manage second. You know what I mean? Or manage is always in there, but,
What is one big goal that you have for the business right now?
We're doing some really cool projects.
Yeah.
In the energy sector. And the goal with that is that's just the first one that comes to mind. When you said that, is just we're creating some really cool and innovative white papers that are reality. Like people can go and see this kind of innovation live and in person. And just having the availability to kind of intelligently, without any kind of judgment or any kind of bias, talk about this this innovation, and to be in a place where you could do that openly is just really cool. I mean, you could just the number of countries that we're working with: Iceland, China, Brazil. I mean, I just named basically 4 countries that are, and the U.S. obviously, that are encompassing our entire globe, which is, it's just really cool. And so the goal would be to just, I'll be in Vegas. I'll be presenting in the World Cryptocon, which is the largest cryptocurrency conference in the world technically. And I'll be presenting on some of these opportunities that we've done in the space, and I'm excited, man. That's exciting. That is this is stuff that's never really been done.
Wow. Well, with that, I think one of the things that I want to take a few minutes to talk about is specifically crypto and crypto technologies. There is the blockchain and cryptocurrency end of things, but there's a lot of things that you're doing with just utilizing the technology. Mm-hmm. So talk to us a little bit about how you're using, let's back up. How did you get into crypto?
Yeah, that's a funny story. So just a small disclaimer, I am not an expert. I know what I know. I have been in this space since 2015.
Wow.
And when I say in the space, I mean, I could tell you what Bitcoin was.
Yeah.
I couldn't really tell you what cryptography was, which is the technology that Bitcoin is derived from, or any cryptocurrency. How I got into the space, really, I was just fascinated kind of with the word Bitcoin. I mean, it's kind of sounds funny, like Bitcoin, it's like, so
it sounds like a video game.
It does.
Currency.
Yeah. Like, and I was huge into RPGs, back in the day. So I was like, oh, this is probably like a cool, like Final Fantasy thing or something, like a cool coin you get when you beat, some boss or something in the game.
Yeah.
Anyway, but, so I learned about it and I started to trade it. I started to, kind of buy and sell crypto.
Yeah.
Coinbase, real basic stuff, man. Just didn't really know anything about it. And then in 2017, a couple buddies of mine were really heavily into it, still to this day are. And that's when I started really to dive in a little bit about, what is Bitcoin? What is cryptography? What is cryptocurrency? Why is everybody talking about it? And then time passed. Like the bubble kind of fizzled for me. I just, was buying it. It went up to its all-time high of about 20K, and then it crashed down to about 3,000, and I was like, oh, this is weird.
Yeah.
And so, my firm approached me and was like, a couple of my mentors at the firm, actually one in particular, very, very large amount of respect for this man, told me that you need to get into a niche market. And I said, well, energy is not a niche market.
No.
Okay. He's like, no, but you need to find a particular niche that nobody else is really in and involved with and advising businesses within that market, serving them in the energy space and doing it well. And so I identified 2. And so I approached my COO, who I report to. And I said, listen, these are the 2 that I think are good. Without any kind of real hesitation, I just went to crypto because I knew about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so he said, okay. So we invested a little bit of money. He sent me to Bitcoin 2019 in San Francisco.
Yeah.
Okay, so Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
I got my full dose of San Francisco when I was there, right? But that conference, and I went in that conference, and I said, listen, obviously for me, it's a track, what I do and my expertise, a miner or like guys that mine cryptocurrency or data, large data mining facilities, my services become very attractive to them, right? So I was just kind of going there to connect with a few miners, right? Because we were getting the calls, right? Just people, having these rigs set up and they want the cheap energy and things, and their cheap electricity more specifically. And so we were getting these calls and we were like, is this real? Like, is this, I don't know. They're talking about like this magic money. And I don't really understand any of this,
Yeah.
And so basically what happened was, that birthed us going to Bitcoin 2019, or me.
Yeah.
And so when we got there, I was like, I want to understand it a little bit more, right?
Yeah.
I want to understand it a little bit more fundamentally.
Yeah.
And that totally changed my whole scope of how actually I view money today, like actual money.
Like, how so?
I'm a firm believer in cryptography and the technology behind cryptography. I'm a firm believer in securing money.
Yeah.
And using the tokenization and the digitalization of code that is written to support some of these cryptocurrencies. I feel it's very safe. I feel it's extremely safe. I don't dislike banks. It's just I do enjoy not having a trusted third party.
Yeah.
Monitor transactions. And for me to send you $1,000 in Bitcoin, you and I can confirm it's all open. Everybody can see it.
Yeah.
I just think that's cool, and
Yeah.
I think to do it in a safe way and to have some kind of monetary value to it, it just to me it's a home run.
Yeah.
And so when I went to Bitcoin 2019, that happened. and basically I met one of my clients today who he's a dear friend of mine now. He's a client of mine. His name's Sean. Great dude.
Yeah.
And highly intelligent tech guy. Now I'm just completely engrossed of it. I'm currently advising 6 mining customers.
Oh, wow.
Mining facilities.
Yeah.
Okay. And these guys are using anywhere from 1 megawatt to 100 megawatts or more of electricity.
Wow.
They have gas that they need to turn into electricity that's needed to buy and things. And so, as I got into it more and more and more, so I went from Bitcoin 2019 in San Francisco to mining Disrupt in Miami in 2019. It was literally a month later. Went to Miami, and then that was just pure mining guys. Okay, so this is all data centers. I met guys that were designing data centers for Google and Facebook, and just phenomenal folks. And that conference actually made me want to mine myself.
Wow.
And so I have my own rig. I mine Ethereum right now. For me, it was the more I can learn about this, the more I can intelligently speak to it.
Yeah.
And I just want to know about it. Like there's a good, shameless plug for a guy who wrote this book it's called Bitcoin Gold.
Okay.
And it's just it's a Bitcoin book for kids. It's
Yeah.
about,
Yeah.
and so it's just one of those things where just understanding it, and what it is one thing, but to adopt it and to use it and to use the application is a whole nother thing. And so, being involved in this space has been great. And so we've been going full force really since June, technically, which sounds really weird. It's only been a short amount of time, but in that short amount of time, tremendous things have been done, from a mining side, from a data center side. People are purchasing electricity in the right way.
Yeah.
And they're having full transparency.
Yeah.
Behind it. And so it's just a really cool thing. It's a really cool thing.
That's really cool, and I love that you're getting into this technology and you're getting into it from a unique standpoint. You're coming from the energy sector and applying those technologies there, but it's kind of crazy for you to end up in this sector. How did that happen?
Oh, man. Like, how far do you want to go back? How much time do we have?
So you were born in... No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. 1986.
I'm older than you.
We won't divulge your year.
81.
It's not too far.
No.
Yeah.
No. I remember a little bit more of a world prior.
Right. So you could resonate with a lot of stuff we were talking about before.
Yeah. I mean, I can resonate with what it was like to grow up and be like, hey, I know what it's like to only have 4 channels.
Oh,
and
yeah.
then cable to kick in. And it's like,
right.
I was at the cusp of the MTV generation.
Ooh. It's a lovely generation.
Yeah. And so for me, I grew up in that kind of environment where we didn't have cell phones until like 98, 99. Then we started getting cell phones, maybe 2000 for a lot of people.
Yep.
And that wasn't a smartphone.
No, that was the
that was
cell phone.
You got charged $200 per text message, kind of thing.
Yeah, roaming, like you did not want to touch that.
Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah, I mean, so I was born and raised in New Jersey for 23 years.
I don't know if I should say I'm sorry.
I would accept your apology if you did. But so yeah, I mean that was so Vineland, right? So if you go to Jersey Shore, you pass it.
Yeah.
Actually, it's crazy. I just little slight rabbit trail. I do have clients still in my hometown, which is cool, very cool. I'm very privileged to do business there still, and I just heard from a client in my hometown that like he was concerned about organized crime, and
like currently,
like yeah,
Wow.
like with kids and so it's just to hear that like my hometown to me, I have good memories of my hometown, and so, I went to my high school, 75 kids, dude.
Wow.
So real small. I mean, you knew what people
like the
smelled
entire
like.
high school or?
No, 75 kids in the graduating class. There's probably about 300 total kids.
Okay. Yeah.
Like
real small.
Quite small.
Yeah.
Like you knew who the freshmen were as seniors,
Yeah.
That's how small it was.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't exist to this day. It's gone.
Wow.
Yeah. So, played basketball there. It's pretty much all I did, man. I just was chasing. I wanted to play professional basketball and chasing that all the way up to actually getting a scholarship to Southern Connecticut State.
Wow.
And then 2 days before the official practice date, the entire coaching staff leaves.
Wow.
Right. And so I finished out the semester, moved back to Jersey, basically said, hey, I just want to play ball. And at that point, I was in the best shape.
Yeah.
I could run a 6-minute mile.
Yeah.
I can almost dunk for a 5'11" white kid, Italian kid from Jersey.
Yeah.
Just in really good shape. And, but when that happened to me, my drive for that just went, it was like, the foot was dangling over the plateau and it
just fell out.
Yeah, it was just bad. And so, long story short, I graduated from Arcadia. I played ball there for 2 years. And then basically my senior year, I was like, you got to go get a job now, dude. And so I was always, from that point on, like, I mean, I was good at a lot of things. Like I play 7 instruments. This is not me boasting at all. It's just stuff that I did, that I should have paid attention to more. Played music and I always played music with my dad. We recorded albums, studio musician. Good at basketball, good at all different kinds of sports, fishing. I love fly fishing now. But when I was a senior in college, I was a punk jerk kid that thought I could defeat the world at 22 years old.
Wow.
And so, I was hanging around the wrong people, just doing the wrong stuff. And I was at the lowest point. It was crazy. It was like best shape, tip-top shape of my life. Spiritually, emotionally, worst part. Yeah. Like bottom shelf. And so, like the shelf that you like throw stuff underneath, that's where I lived for a while. And so I met my wife, thank God. And my life completely changed. Wow. And from there, I entered into the finance world, the world of finance, which is a very interesting world. Actually, I wanted to trade stocks for people.
Yeah.
Didn't understand what that world was at all.
Wow.
And so left that, went to go work for Hertz for 6 years. I have a love-hate relationship to this day with that place. I learned a lot. It taught me a tremendous amount about management and managing people. Yeah. I would never do it again. Yeah. Even if somebody were to today tell me, Blaise, I will give you $1 million to take over all the responsibility you had, I would tell them no. Wow. I grinded for 6 years, man. Wow. Just really developing myself as a professional, learning how to grow business, learning how to manage people. I mean, at one point I had 15 branch managers reporting to me. Wow. And they stayed with me. Wow. For some of them for over 3 years. Wow. And that business is very hard to do. Yeah. So I learned how to manage there, and we did well. But I always wanted the one caveat that I didn't have there was I couldn't talk to everybody about what I did.
Yeah.
You know, if you were traveling or if you were in a car accident, I could tell you, oh, I could help you. But that's it.
Yeah.
Nobody really cared.
Yeah.
And that kind of bothered me.
Yeah.
And so I said, all right, like we went through this cycle of 2 reconstructive, basically executive cycles out, you know.
Yeah.
Restructures. Sorry, that was the word. Restructures. And so it was a tough time. All the people that that I worked for, you know, that recruited me and that groomed me all left. And so there's a mass exodus, and so I left as well.
Wow.
And I was looking for more of the macro stuff, like three sectors: energy, the internet or IT, and finance again.
Yeah.
And so I just picked energy just because it was different, and I knew that if people stopped using energy at the time, well, even now, people stop using energy now, it's we have a huge problem.
Yeah.
And so I kind of jumped in full force, man, you know, and that was now I'm in 5 years, man, and I love it. I've never been with my current firm over 2 years now.
Wow.
And that was the best move I ever made from the car business or from the rental car industry. And this is interesting, and I'll make this comment to most folks who work for a company and don't feel like they can be entrepreneurial.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I come from that world, right? I mean, I've only worked for 2 companies, okay? If you have good leadership, here's the comment. If you have good leadership at a company that you work for,
Yeah.
you can be entrepreneurial.
Yeah. Yeah.
See, some people are like, oh, well, entrepreneur, companies is over here and entrepreneurs are on the other side.
Yeah.
A lot of what I learned from when I was with a company
Yeah.
helped really thrust or like fuel
Yeah.
my entrepreneurial desire.
Yeah.
And so, because of that, it allowed me to think, and good leaders allowed me to think.
Yeah.
And because they allowed me to do that, they allowed me to like conceptualize. I mean, this is who you are.
Yeah.
Conceptualize the idea into a reality.
Yeah.
To produce something.
Yeah.
And you can do that in a structured, call it whatever you want, bureaucratic type of environment. You can do that if you have the right people that believe in you.
Yeah. For
So.
sure. For sure. Completely agree. Well, we're going to take a break right here. In a moment, we're going to be back for rapid fire questions. There is a lot happening here at Jumblethink, and we are always excited to make what we do better for you. To help you in the journey of chasing your dreams, your ideas, to give you the resources, the tools, and the information that help you get from idea and into making that a reality. Recently, we talked about some of those changes on Tuesday's episode. If you missed that episode, make sure to go back and check out episode 274, where we talked about and gave you some updates on what you have to look forward to for the rest of 2019 and into 2020 with Jumblethink. We have some incredible guest episodes lined up for you, and you're not going to want to miss them. So what you need to do is head on over to jumblethink.com, sign up for our newsletter. That way, when we have a new episode, you can know about it before anyone else. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter. Those links are also at jumblethink.com. Now let's go ahead and jump back into today's conversation for rapid fire questions with Blaise Pepitone.
Vous devez écouter ce disque plusieurs fois pour bien en comprendre le mécanisme.
We are back with Blaise. All right, Blaise, are you ready for rapid fire questions?
Let's do it.
All right. As a child, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I don't know, man. I just wanted to be outside.
Okay. And you're doing that with fishing
That's
down
right.
here on the creek here.
We're outside now.
Yeah. What is one tip you'd give someone with a big idea or dream and they don't know where to start?
Make sure you have a good mentor.
What's one big lie about entrepreneurship you'd like to break?
That you can't be entrepreneurial in a corporation.
What's one change you'd like to see in the world?
To eradicate poverty.
What do you want your legacy to be?
Through my family.
Where do you find inspiration?
A lot of places.
Any one specific thing?
Nature.
What's one book you think every dreamer or entrepreneur should read?
The Bible.
How do you define success?
That's a whole nother podcast.
Well, give us a short.
Success is a mutually beneficial relationship.
What is one trend you are currently excited about?
Crypto.
What is one habit that you find helpful in your life as an entrepreneur?
You got to be able to listen.
What is one thing you wish you would have known when you first started out?
How hard it really is.
If you weren't doing what you're doing today, what do you think you'd be doing?
My wife and I would move to Curacao. And our kids would be in school.
What is one dream you're still wanting to fulfill in your own life?
Philanthropy. It's becoming more real every day, but to become a influential philanthropist is a massive goal of mine.
As we wrap up today's show, what is your final thought for all of us listening today?
Don't be scared to think big.
I like that.
You know, like I love my wife, man. She's so down to earth, and but she's to the point, and she always pulls me out of the clouds, right? But at the end of the day, I push her to think outside of the box and to think, how can you do something better? What problem are you solving to make it better?
Yeah.
And, you know, don't let anything be impossible. You know, and here's another thing. Don't listen to anybody who's telling you it's impossiple. Never. I mean, that'll make or break an entrepreneur, obviously. But it's like, yeah, duh. But you'd be surprised. I mean, you see it all the time.
Yeah, I do.
You know, the people that you realize that they're saying this after you're talking with them, right?
Yeah.
This is what you're saying. So dream big, go after it, go hard, and go home. You know. So
super, super cool. Blaise, thanks so much for being on,
Yeah,
taking
man,
time
this is
out.
great.
So tell your story to us.
thank you. This is awesome.
We'll be right back for final thoughts on today's show.
Mettez-vous dans une tenue légère.
As I've been thinking about today's show, my big takeaway for all of us today is about the importance of finding your unique perspective or your niche in what you are creating. This is highlighted by how Blaise took an industry, energy, and found a niche in which he could specialize and provide an incredible service to their needs. There has been so much conversation about niche and finding your niche and finding your blue ocean. There are so many different ways it's being said right now. I've really struggled personally with that conversation because sometimes it's great to niche down. And we've done that with our own business in seasons where we were a Drupal web development shop, which is a specific kind of framework, and we built for high tech. And that was our specialty. That was what we did primarily. I've also had times where we've been a generalist and we've come in and said, hey, we use 4 or 5 different web technologies and we can solve your problem. Both of these solutions got to the end game goal of my needs, and that was to have business, to have customers that I could serve and create for. Finding your niche, your creative and unique perspective on the world is a way to find amazing breakthrough for your business or for your area of expertise. And the more you niche down, you can find a very highlighted audience that you're going to serve, that you're going to own. You're going to be able to speak their lingo. You're going to be able to speak their language directly to them. This will help you convert sales. This will help you being able to serve the specific needs of that customer. But niching down isn't right for everyone. So you need to know when finding a niche is right versus when you just need to have that unique perspective on how you solve a customer's problem. A few years back, I remember an article that Entrepreneur magazine did, and they gave you kind of 5 steps you can find or use to find your niche or your special area of expertise. They said, number 1, identify your interests and passions. 2, identify problems you can solve. 3, research and understand your competition. 4, determine the profitability of your niche. And 5, test your ideas. This is similar to what we call micro experiments, and you could apply a micro experiment to the journey of finding your niche, finding your unique perspective on what you are doing to solve your customers' needs. Ultimately, you need to figure out if niching down is correct for you, or if you just need to have killer customer service and be a little bit broader. There are customers that need generalists that can come in and have a wide understanding of the landscape. They understand how to bring different facets together and make them all work together. But then there are other times you as a customer need to be able to find specialists that can come in and say, you know what, that's really a great perspective and there's a lot going on, but this one area, we're going to just focus and tune on that. So if you are in a place as a business trying to figure out what is my niche, maybe you do have a niche and you can be a specialist in one area. That doesn't mean that's all you have to do. That could be just one of the facets that you become well known for, whereas you could still be a generalist in some of the services that you offer. And it's not just about what you offer, it's about who you are. Sometimes you need to look and see, what are my passions? You know, that Inc. or Entrepreneur Magazine article, which talks about understanding your passions. Maybe you have multiple passions and you figure out unique ways to bring all of those passions together. So you're that generalist, but because your passions are multifaceted, you use that as your superpower. The other thing about being a generalist that can be a benefit is that the sheer act of curiosity, and curiosity spurs continued education. There are people who say, hey, I'm a specialist, I'm going to niche down, and then they lose track of the bigger and broader picture. Now, in this case, with what Blaise was talking about, finding his niche gave him a competitive advantage to stand out in a market that is saturated. And he was able to consult in spaces that haven't been already penetrated. This became a huge value to him and to his business. For you, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're a business owner, or you're an employee, there may be times that you need to niche down. So today's challenge as we move towards the end of the episode, towards the end of the show, is for you to think about the conversation today. Are you at a place right now where you don't stand out because you're too much of a generalist? And maybe you need to become more of a specialist, that you need to niche down into the space that you can best serve. If that's you, take some steps today to evaluate where you're at, what you need to go towards, and how you can get there. On the flip side, if you are a specialist and your area of specialty has disappeared, it's no longer needed, then maybe it's time for you to become a generalist for a while until you find your next niche, your next space where you can stand out. I would love to hear from you. What do you think about the conversation about niche versus generalist? How do you feel like you fit in? Head on over to Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, or Twitter and join the conversation as we continue talking about today's show. Ultimately, it's your turn now. I believe you were created for something awesome, that you have purpose, that you have dreams and destinies, and those things matter. What are you going to do today, even a small step, to move on the journey of making that a reality? How are you going to choose to live boldly, to go into places where you never imagined were possible for you? More than ever, the world needs more dreamers. We are a divided and fractured world. What does your dream do to bring us together? How can you impact the world around you with hope, with faith, and with an opportunity to show the love that we need more of in humanity? What are you going to do today to begin to chase those dreams, to begin to make sure that you are creating the world you want to live in? While it's not the easier choice, it's easier to just settle back and live comfortably, it is the better choice to live, to be who you are created to be. So I'm going to pass it over to you now. It's your turn. Take a step today to dream big. Then to turn those dreams and ideas into reality. Thanks so much for tuning into today's episode. Now it's your turn to dream big and to change the world around you.
Étirez-vous doucement, mais complètement. En avant, en arrière, sur les côtés. Vous êtes une autre personne. mères de famille, les enfants peuvent également prendre un moment revitalisant. Dans quelques mois, lorsque vous aurez bien saisi la technique et que vous serez maître de votre corps, vous pourrez vous décontracter même en travaillant.